Hello, I'm Enzo, and I've gotten tons of mod packs recommended to me from comments, which I have a massive list of. But today, I'll start playing the most requested one, and that is, of course, Gregtech New Horizons. I don't know much about this pack, but I feel like I remember hearing it's one of the longest and most complicated and, well, difficult Minecraft mod packs out there. So let's get right into it, because this mod pack is absolutely the definition of insanity. Since the beginning is collecting some basic resources, let me explain how this series is going to work. I have no clue how long this mod pack is going to take me to beat, and considering I read in the description that it can't be beaten in just a couple of weeks, these videos will still be in my usual style, but might be a bit shorter than usual, closer to a let's play of sorts. I'm likely going to make videos of other games and runs in between these videos, so this is going to be more like a long-term series. I'm still not 100% sure how it's going to work out in the end, but we'll see. Alright, back to the game. I started out by collecting some dirt, wood, and gravel, since the quests told me to, and apparently you cannot get flint from mining gravel. You have to craft it yourself. That's pretty annoying. One of the biggest things about this mod pack, which you might notice, is the insane changes to the crafting recipes. Nothing is easy to make in here, trust me. Even a crafting table takes 2 logs and 2 flint. Not to mention the fact that you only get 2 wooden planks per log. And don't even think about doing like 99% of the stuff you normally would in here. Trust me, everything is a ridiculously complicated process to get what you want instead. But with my flint and sticks, I can craft some basic tools. Vanilla Minecraft tools don't work in here, so I'll have to use these flint tools until I can start Tinker's Construct later on. Now that I have a pickaxe, I can start harvesting some stone. I'm trying to get as much stuff done as possible, as quick as possible, because I will not be able to do anything at night. You'll see why in a bit, but I played a tiny bit of this in a creative world for a few minutes to see what I was working with, and of course, figuring out my settings. But that's when I figured out how crazy nighttime is in this pack. It's good that I managed to get quite a few materials, since I need to hide since night is rapidly approaching. A little bit later, you can see what I was talking about. It is pitch black outside. Yeah, that's what this pack does to lighting. It's no longer a matter of convenience. You know, in vanilla Minecraft, you can see a tiny bit at night, but in here, you literally cannot see anything in the dark. It's quite crazy. It's super convenient that one of the early quests gives you a torch because, well, I would have no light source otherwise. You see, you can't just craft a torch in this pack. Okay, well, you can, but I don't have coal, and you can't just smelt charcoal. So, yeah, I don't have torches for a while. One of my favorite things about this pack is the fact it's a super early version of Minecraft. I believe it's 1.7.10. I love early Minecraft, it was so much better. However, I do have to admit, I kind of miss having a second hand. Also, I miss updated swimming. Yeah, swimming before it was changed is absolutely horrible. But to fix that first issue, one of the mods actually gives you a dual wield mode, so you can have one item in both hands. In this case, it tells you to make a shield, and of course, the flint sword. I'm really curious to see what combinations I can use this with later on. Also, no one told me how old this mod pack was. I couldn't believe it when I saw the screen, but apparently this mod pack is 10 years old. I've heard about this before, but yeah, I didn't know this mod pack was 10 years old. And I know that because it says 10-year anniversary on the loading screen and everything, which is absolutely crazy if you really think about it, but it's also pretty awesome. I'm also guessing that's one of the reasons everyone wanted me to play this and see the unholy amount of time and effort it's going to take to beat. Now that it's daytime, I can finally leave my base and actually see what I'm doing. The only issue is a few enemies I'm gonna have to deal with. One of the, and I kid you not, 305 mods in here adds special versions of mobs. For example, this giant skeleton. This is going to be very interesting to deal with, especially later on. Anyways, my current goal is to harvest more trees, materials in general, and, most important of all, food. Food is a major part of this pack, since you need to consume different types of food because of diminishing returns, but also, something I've never seen before, nutrition. Whatever this nutrition mod is sounds super cool, but is going to be quite annoying throughout this run. It requires me to eat all sorts of foods from different nutrient groups to survive. I have to admit, it is super neat. There's grain, fruit, vegetable, dairy, and meat. So I'll have to eat all sorts of different foods to satisfy all of those needs. But I'll get into that a bit later on. I didn't get to do much during night 2, but I made a spear, which gives me a tiny bit of attack range, which could be nice. Making this was perfectly timed because in the morning, there was a super crazy mob that I had to deal with. It's like a baby zombie, but with all sorts of crazy effects. Yeah, I'm glad I made it. I'm also super glad I decided to use stairs as a makeshift window, otherwise this thing would have gotten in my base. Oh, you're probably wondering why I'm using stairs as a window and kind of makeshift door. Well, you see, I can't craft a door right now. Everyone knows the classic recipe. It's 6 wooden planks. Why am I not making a door? Well, like I said earlier, all the crafting recipes in this mod pack are completely mixed up and absolutely insane. To make a wooden door, I need all sorts of special tools and wooden screws. Yeah, this sounds no fun to make. Needless to say, I can't make it just yet. It'll take some time. This is just a small preview of how insane this pack gets. And again, this is just the start. I am completely dreading what this pack has in store for me. Thankfully though, the recipe to make a bed is super simple. It's just some wood and plenty of wool, because I also have to make carpet. But that's relatively cheap, and I can finally skip nighttime. What's also neat is that you get buffs from sleeping at night. I believe they last a bit longer and get more powerful as you sleep more and more, which is super nice. This day, I went exploring a bit more and actually found a cave, which is super neat. But the best part is that it had a tiny bit of coal in it, which means I can finally make some torches and expand my base. You see, I've had this one single torch to light up my base this entire time. But now I can make a few more torches and actually start expanding my little bunker here. Since I want to start on Tinker's Construct, I need paper, which means I need to smelt stone to make a mortar with some flint. Then I need to grind down a ton of wood, which is quite annoying to get at this point, and finally combine the wood pulp with water. Conveniently, I got a couple of clay buckets from one of the quests, and that finally gives me paper. Yes, all of these steps just to make paper. I will admit, it's nice because I don't actually have sugarcane. I won't find that for quite a while, but still, this is ridiculous. Since this is an older version of Minecraft, this is kind of where my expertise lies, so I do know a lot about most of the mods that I played with before. But of course, the recipes have all been scrambled, so I'm just trying to figure out my way around all of them first. Creating all of the Tinker's Construct stuff is incredibly difficult because I need all sorts of different materials. And to make the blank patterns, I can't even use sticks. It's actually 4 pieces of paper, which hurts a bit more because of how difficult paper is to make. I know there is a whole lot of stuff I'm kind of skipping over here because of how much is going to go on, especially later, but a couple quick notes. I managed to get a door from a mission I completed, which is very nice. I still do not have the tools to actually make it. That ectoplasm was from killing a specter or something that spawned after I was just randomly killing animals, and it dropped ectoplasm. I think this is like random things or whatever that mod is called. All I know is that the whole mod is a Terraria reference, which I absolutely love, because, you know, ectoplasm. I also started setting up a farm. Naturally, this is pretty important because, you know, food and everything like that. And one thing I noticed, especially later on, I know part of it has to do with sleeping, but the nutrients. As the nutrient values get way higher, I think you actually get buffs. Because later on, I have mostly permanent like strength and resistance and stuff like that. so some really crazy buffs from having good nutrition. I have to admit, this is getting a little bit too realistic for my tastes. Well, except for waking up well rested. We all know that doesn't happen in real life. I have to say, I think my spawn is really good. It's a nice, kind of foresty area, there's plenty of natural resources, and there's a massive lake, which is nice for several reasons. Plenty of water is nice, because water is not infinite in this mod pack. It's a little bit annoying, but I can work with it. And of course, clay, gravel, and sand, all very important resources, especially early on. Using clay and sand, and this mold I got by combining a knife and a blank pattern, I can start making some coke bricks. This is of course to make a coke oven, which is going to be awesome because that will let me start making coke coal and of course charcoal, finally. The knives are also super convenient because they make killing mobs far easier. So fun fact about this mod pack, mobs can actually explode when you kill them, for no reason at all. Just because they can. And one time, one of the explosions actually threw me up kind of high into the air, which was a little scary. So, killing mobs with a knife prevents that from happening. Just another fun quirk of this ridiculous mod pack. I accidentally made another normal axe before finally remembering to start Tinker's construct. The recipes for all of the tools themselves are the same as usual. And of course, I'm going with flint for all of my tool heads and wood for the other parts. These are going to be nice because I can actually repair these tools, but I really like the Gregtech flint tools because they actually have fire aspect built into them. That's why like all of the meat I collect is cooked already, which is super convenient. But it's nice to get Tinker's construct started so that I can have upgradable and of course repairable tools. I also saw this massive tree in the distance and I really wanted to check it out. The main issue, as you can probably see, is lighting. Yes, it is pitch black right next to this tree, which makes it very annoying to mine, but these trees are definitely going to be a good source of wood if I ever get tired of clearing out forests. The only issue is that I have to slowly mine my way up them. But still, pretty neat things. Now that all of the bricks have finished smelting, I can finally make my own coke oven. This is super exciting because I can finally make some charcoal for more torches. I built a little room for it inside my base, and thankfully it's only a 26 block structure, not 27. But this is pretty awesome. What's also super neat is that this pack has some other recipes you can do in here, like sugar charcoal and cactus charcoal, and of course, coke for each of them. That's interesting to say the least, so we can use sugarcane and cactus. I've never seen that before, but those look like some pretty neat textures. I also got a trophy from building this coke oven. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in storage just in case. If you guys remember my last playthrough, which was Ocean Block 2, I threw away some of the trophies and they ended up being necessary to beat the game. I don't think that's the case here, but just in case. After harvesting even more wood to turn into charcoal, it's finally time to start going mining, which is super exciting. I was reading up quite a bit in the quest book about how mining works in this pack, and it took me a long time to understand at the start, but after playing it, I realize now. So in the top left, you get all sorts of information, and occasionally I will run into what's called an ore chunk. You can also see if it's a slime chunk or not, that's super convenient, but ore chunks pretty much are filled with one type of ore in the center of the chunk. Okay, not like one type, it's a few different types, but they're generally the same resources. Well, at least when it comes to iron and stuff like that. But long story short, one of the first ore chunks I found was a massive one of iron. Now, I didn't mine all of this at the start, which I really should have because this is a crazy find, but this will come in handy later on. One of the reasons I can't mine it is because my pickaxe just physically can't. It's actually underleveled. What you're supposed to do for the first quest is actually mine 4 stacks of cobblestone with your pickaxe. That's pretty crazy. Besides getting a ton of XP on your pickaxe for modifiers, there's oddly enough mining level that you can level up. I've never seen this before, but after mining for quite a bit, I actually leveled it up and I can mine some new resources now. For example, iron, which is super neat. But of course, I'm still gathering cobblestone to get that iron pickaxe upgrade because that's going to be huge. But I'm willing to say that just unlocking iron in the first place is even more important than getting a new pickaxe head. But I can only mine some of the iron here. I'm going to need that pickaxe head to mine the rest. But unlocking iron unlocks a ton of this run, including the tools that I was talking about earlier to start crafting all of the crazy little things. For example, some screws to make wooden doors. This quest also gives me the choice between an iron shovel or axe head. I decided to go for the shovel, even though it is a very tough choice. I'm going to be harvesting a ton of trees, but at the same time, I'm going to need a ton of gravel, sand, and clay for later on. So either one is a good choice. But now it's time to go mining. And I mean a whole insane ton of mining I have to do. I need just about every basic resource you can think of. Redstone, iron, copper, coal, gold, lapis, literally everything. After a whole lot of mining, I guess I should explain how these ore chunks work. The nice thing is I kind of built my base in like the perfect spot for ore chunk spacing, because there's actually one that you guys saw earlier relatively early on. Pretty much there is an ore chunk every third chunk. So ore chunk, none, none, and then ore chunk. You can kind of see it on the mini map there, those 3 squares in a line. The ore vein is generally in the middle of the chunk, so that's what I'm looking for. I have to find the middle, and to do that, you can actually press F9 3 times, which shows you the middle of the chunk. It's incredibly handy for this. And then I do a little 2x2 tunnel all the way up until I find the actual ore vein. I kind of regret doing it like this because I should have used stairs to climb up instead of just mining. I jumped probably hundreds of times here and wasted a ton of food, but oh well. While mining, I also managed to find a diamond, which was super neat. Unfortunately, it's just a simple flawed diamond, but I did manage to find a normal diamond later on, which was super cool. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to use it for a very long time. Another super nice thing about the coke oven is the oil it creates. I'm done trying to pronounce it, I just butcher it every time. The cool thing about this oil is I make way too much of it, and it can actually be used as a furnace fuel. This will let me save a ton of coal for later on, or more importantly, torches and everything. You can also make torches out of coke coal, which is super neat. I think it's like 6 instead of just 2 or 4. I can't remember at this point. My brain is fried from this pack. Speaking of, that's probably the biggest problem with mining so far. Unlike vanilla Minecraft, you don't just get like one piece of ore from each block. You get all sorts of like impure ores or dust, not to mention the several different types of ore that are all iron in the end. It's an absolute nightmare, and that's kind of the whole issue with storage, especially in the early game. I have no clue when I'm gonna get like an ME system or any proper storage or sorting, but yeah, it's gonna be a mess for a long time. As you can probably tell by my mini-map, I've been mining for a crazy amount of time, but I finally struck redstone. This is awesome, now I can speed up my pickaxe. Well, as you can see, I already have, because I found redstone dust, just ore scattered throughout the world. I haven't found an actual vein up until now. This vein also contains ruby and cinnabar ore. I was hoping for a little bit that these could also be turned into redstone, but no, they are their own things. Ruby is, well, pretty obvious, and cinnabar ore is actually a precursor to mercury. Well, in this mod pack it's quicksilver, but I learned mercury from oxygen not included. Another neat and crazy thing about this mod pack, the weather. As you can see in the top left, snowing and thundering. But I had the exact right idea at this point, Florida weather. I mean, especially where I live, there are some crazy storms even on normal days. What's interesting is that all of this redstone ore is in, well, ore form. It's usually in dust form. I'm gonna need to change that. To get redstone dust, I combine the ore, and then crushed ore, with a hammer. This hammer is the main reason I need iron. This is one of the specialized tools that I'm going to be using a ton throughout this run. It costs 6 iron ingots and 1 stick to make this hammer, and I'm going to be making a ton of these throughout the run. After I get the impure dust, I had to throw that into a cauldron. Naturally, making a cauldron isn't simple either. It requires 7 iron plates. Iron plates are a hammer and 2 iron ingots in a crafting table. And yes, that is for a single plate. So I need a lot of iron throughout this playthrough. One thing I only learned a bit later on is that you can actually make dough by throwing flour into the cauldron. Yes, I don't actually have to do the terrible water recipe in the crafting table. It literally takes 2 water, which thankfully you can get 4 fresh water with 1 bucket, but still, that's a dumb recipe when you can just throw the flour into the cauldron. I was also just farming, minding my own business, when I encountered a poison skeleton. The skeleton itself died super fast, but that poison too sucks. It just completely drained my health. I'm glad there are no other mobs around to kill me, but the major loss is obviously on my food. I'm gonna have to waste a whole lot of food to refill my hunger and health. So that was interesting. Alright, here's when things are gonna get crazy. This is when I'm gonna start making all of the various tools I need to start crafting, well, other stuff in this run. It all started because I was hoping to make some cooking utensils before I saw that I need steel, well, stainless steel to make a pot, so that's not gonna happen for a while. Then I decided, I'm here, might as well make all of the tools. A file is 2 iron plates and a stick. A wrench is the hammer and some iron ingots. The saw is a bit more annoying because you have to make the saw blade first, but it's 2 plates, a file, and a hammer. To make a screwdriver, I actually need iron rods, which is just a file and iron ingot, and throw that in with the hammer, file, and a stick. This is ridiculous already. And remember everyone, this is just the early game. I haven't made anything really yet. I am definitely not looking forward to any of this. Okay, well, I kind of am. It's more of just like dread. I am having quite a bit of fun figuring everything out, but it's going to get annoying very fast. There is another item, I think it's like a lunch bag or something that I could have used a bit earlier to store all of my food, but now I'm making a lunch box. For the lunch box, I actually need some screws. Screws are iron rods that are sawed in half to make bolts. 2 bolts and a file make screws. With some plates and obviously a screwdriver, I can make my lunchbox and throw a ton of food in there, which is super nice. I can eat directly out of this thing by shift right-clicking it, but most of the time I'm gonna manually take out the food that I specifically want to eat. I spend a lot of time in these mod packs just roaming around all the items, seeing what's in here. With 305 mods, obviously there's gotta be some cool stuff in here. I found turrets. Yes, gun turrets. They do have some different projectiles, including a railgun, but these will be super neat to make. I mean, turret. You can't go wrong with it. I was working on expanding my base a little bit when all of a sudden the lighting got super weird. I'm not sure if this is the weather. I doubt it because it just seems to be normal rain. It really looks like a blood moon to me, which I kind of figure, but I am too scared to peek out of my house to look at. So I'm guessing that's another feature of this pack. This mod pack does have iron chests, which is super neat. The only issue is that they're quite expensive. To make iron chests, I actually need double iron plates, which is literally 2 iron plates combined. And of course, a chest and some screws. So they're relatively simple, but expensive at the same time. I've been doing a ton of farming in the background. The main issue is that I don't have all of the seeds that I need. One of the ways to get more seeds is actually using a hoe on grass. This gives me all sorts of neat seeds, the most important of which is cotton. Cotton can be used to make string, and cotton itself has all sorts of uses for other crafting recipes. This is insanely important because I don't kill many mobs because of how difficult they are. Honestly, I don't fight mobs that often in general. I kinda just like working with machines and other stuff. I was clearing out more area to expand my farm when I saw this thing. I had a good clue of what it was, considering it's, a black creeper. Yes, it's an ender creeper, and it teleports. You can probably see by my camera going crazy that it freaked me out quite a bit. So, that's certainly something. What's more interesting is it actually dropped a Whip of Destruction. It's just a renamed fishing rod with sharpness 1 and unbreaking 10. That's certainly interesting. I could have made a fishing rod for a while now. I just need double sticks, which is pretty much what it sounds like, but it has an odd crafting recipe. So, yeah, I can do some fishing now. Not that I really need to, but that's always an option. Something you've probably seen, but I forgot to mention up till this point, is the squids that are just spawning in this lake. Another awesome thing about having this lake near my base. Squids can obviously be killed for ink sacs, but also calamari as an additional source of food. Incredibly convenient. Conveniently, a lot of crops can be thrown back into the crafting grid to actually make their seeds. For example, cotton. This lets me rapidly expand my cotton production, which is incredibly important, as I am going to need a ton for some of the next missions. When I was exploring, I found this little hut that was inhabited by goblins. Thankfully, they don't seem to be hostile, which is good because I've seen quite a few of them in this run, and I honestly have no clue what their use is. But their hut actually has a cauldron in it, so yeah, free cauldron. That's literally 14 iron ingots, and obviously a free wooden door. I'll absolutely take those. Since I have all of these awesome tools, I can actually make quite a few cooking utensils. There are some things that I want to make, I just can't right now. Most notably, of course, the pot that unlocks a whole ton of food options, and the juicer would be nice, but again, I don't have steel or stainless steel just yet. Either way though, everything else is relatively simple to craft. It's all of the iron products that I've had to make a ton of already. This will unlock a whole bunch of food options for me. Not that I really need it, I have all sorts of foods unlocked already, but these tools will be a great help. I've been gathering resources and a lot of milk from cows when I discovered this witch. Thankfully, she's not hostile. But I haven't gotten into witchcraft or whatever mod she's from yet, so I'm guessing that's for later on as well. I also discovered this super neat brick house. Naturally, I decided to harvest a bunch of the bricks because the recipe to make them is a tiny bit annoying. There's some standard loot in this house, also very neat stuff. I like how the enchanted book actually tells me the percentage on the book. That's a super cool change. I have to say, this is a super neat design for this little house. It totally reminds me of classic Minecraft. But most interesting of all, there's a staircase that keeps going down. I hate to use this many torches, but it just gets too dark down here. And at the bottom, I found this dungeon. Man, I completely forgot about this mod. I don't actually know which one it is, but I totally remember this dungeon now. Of course, I just had to see this room to understand it. I would love to raid this place, but I'm definitely not equipped just yet. I need a backpack and some sort of real weapon. But it's great to note because I'm guessing there's pretty good loot down here. Another thing I found while adventuring was this giant straw man. Yes, it's a little statue made out of hay bales. I'm guessing this is from one of the magic mods, witchcraft or something like that. I have no clue what its actual purpose is, probably just a cool POI, but I want to harvest it because, hey, free wheat. I can't complain. Okay, maybe I can a tiny bit. I can't just decraft the hay bales, cause of course I can't. A lot of compacted blocks in this pack, think about like iron or redstone and stuff like that, you need to craft with special machines. I can't just craft and decraft them. So that's another thing for later. What's also interesting is how long it's taking me to mine this spawner. It says I have a pickaxe. I don't know if it's just not high enough level or the spawners do just take a super long time to mine. I'm guessing it's the second thing because that's probably like a dungeon feature, so you don't clear out dungeons super easily. One of the best and easiest foods to rotate is actually sandwiches. I figured out quite a long time ago that you can only eat one food 4 times before it starts giving you less nutrition. And oddly enough, there's a simple solution to this. That's actually bread and baguettes. So you can create bread with 2 pieces of dough or baguettes with 3 pieces. That's super simple. Now you can eat those 2 and rotate them super easily. On top of that, you can actually slice them into bread. You can even have just bread sandwiches, or you can add steak or pork and make sandwiches out of those. You have all sorts of options in here. This is very nice, especially for early game. You can also see how I've been tidying up my entire base. It's not too bad, except for all of the ore that I've been accumulating. It's gonna get a whole lot worse later, but at least it's half decent for now. I especially love the 2x2 drawers to store all of my coins. I've been getting these coins from quests and I haven't really used them much. I only want to use them if I absolutely have to. I want to save them for as long as possible. I've been fooling around for quite a while now. I think it's time to get back to some actual progression. For that, I'm going to need clay dust. How do I get clay dust? Well, I have to make clay blocks. By the way, the clay blobs and blocks are actually both named clay. It's a little stupid if you ask me, but you place the clay blocks, which you get with 8 normal clay in a crafting table with a bucket. It gives you 2 blocks, thankfully, and you can grind that down with a mortar into dust. Very similar to the recipe from earlier for making the coke bricks, I can use gravel as well this time. I need gravel, sand, clay dust, and of course, water. This will get me grout. I'm guessing most of you know what grout is. Well, at least when it comes to Minecraft mod packs. Grout will let me get seared bricks and eventually make a smeltery. It's just gonna take quite a while to craft all of these. And by the way, in case you were thinking we're done, no, if I want to make the seared bricks, I actually have to make them using a water bucket, just like the brick blocks. This is absolutely not getting annoying at all. While I'm waiting for more seared bricks to smelt, I decided to work on a quick side project. I need some tree taps to get some resin from rubber trees. I could technically keep harvesting the entire tree, but tree taps are relatively easy to make. I just need some tools and a whole bunch of wood. I can use these tree taps on specific blocks that I see to get some more sticky resin. I need this sticky resin so I can craft another special multi-block, kind of like the coke oven, that will get me a whole lot of water a bit later on. But obviously it's going to take quite a bit of time to get enough sticky resin. I believe I need 26 or something like that. Most of the smeltery components are relatively easy to make. The smeltery controller just needs a furnace, that's simple enough. The drains do require channels, so that's just a whole lot more bricks. But interestingly enough, I can't actually make a casting table just yet. I have to make a basic smeltery first before I can build it. I actually need seared stone to build the casting table. And even though I can create seared stone by smelting down cobblestone and stuff, I can't actually remember if I can create seared bricks just yet. Maybe I can. I guess I'll have to check that out in the next video. I was waiting for all of my cotton to keep growing before I could continue. Why? Well, I actually need to make gloves with some leather, string, and woven cotton. These are special gloves that'll actually let me carry hot materials. You heard that right. Even though the smeltery is almost done, I literally cannot bring it lava or else I'll get burnt. I actually have to make specialized gloves to carry lava buckets. And of course, I can only carry one at a time. Now, you probably saw that message there. I accidentally placed the gloves in the wrong slots, and you'll notice that pretty quickly here, as I am taking damage from holding this lava bucket. That is again because I have the gloves on the wrong slots. If I had them in the right slot, then it's fine. The thing that sucks is that I'm gonna have to make that trip 3 more times, and many more in the future, if I want to keep the smeltery running. Oh boy, that's gonna be fun. But at least now I can start smelting down some stone to get that casting table. Another neat thing I found while looking around, well, I guess I'm the only one that would find this interesting, is going to be one of my classic references. This time, not to an anime or other game, but actually music. Agahe Glow by Masaworks Design, one of my favorite songs ever. He makes some insanely good music, but it's not exactly family friendly. But apparently Agaha is swallowtail butterfly. Who knew? Here's one of the things I was talking about earlier on with sleeping. I have this crazy speed boost after waking up. I have to admit, this is a very nice buff, but it sucks when you lose it because you feel so slow afterwards. But I mean, 3 minutes of speed 3 is pretty insane for sleeping. I wish this worked in real life too. That'd be really neat. During my usual mining, I actually found a giant slime that apparently ignites on hit. Needless to say, I had no intentions of getting hit by said slime, but I did in the end because of one of the baby slimes. Either way, it dropped some super interesting stuff. It dropped red dye, oddly enough, and fire charges. I mean, I'll take them. I haven't actually looked at the recipe, even at this point, but I'm guessing they can't be easy to make either. One of the ore veins I stumbled upon was full of graphite, coal, and most important of all, diamonds. Technically they are all forms of carbon, so it makes absolute sense, but this is an awesome find. Unfortunately, I can't actually mine the diamonds just yet, so this mine shaft actually stops here because I can't go any further. I know I could just go under it, but you can see the pattern in my mini-map there. Another neat thing I ran into, oil. Now, I haven't shown it at this point, but this mod pack actually includes Buildcraft. If you guys have never seen that mod before, I'm hoping to get to it later, because this is like one of the biggest nostalgia mods for me ever. It has so much stuff that I remember now. It's such a neat mod. My favorite thing in it is obviously the quarry. If you're wondering why I was doing all of that mining, well, I've been looking for tin to complete my next quest. And apparently, the entire time, I've already had a vein of tin. The main issue is it doesn't actually tell me which ore contains the tin I'm looking for. So apparently, tin is contained within that cassiterite sand. Now, of course, I either didn't read this or the game just doesn't tell you. And of course, I only discovered that after I started excavating the vein. So that was extremely frustrating. And I wasted a whole lot of time finding other veins, but at the same time, now that I have access to all of those other resource patches, I guess it's not entirely time wasted. And in case you're wondering what I need tin for, I actually need it to make bronze with copper dust. That's kind of the whole next leap in technology for me, copper and bronze. I also made some iron furnaces a while ago. The recipe is pretty simple. It's just a whole ton of iron plates and everything like that. I'm not sure what bonuses they get, but I'm going to assume they just process faster than usual. But now, with tin and copper, I can naturally make bronze. The only issue is that I actually have to mix it up myself. I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm guessing you can use the smeltery, even though that means I'd have to make aluminum bronze first. And I don't exactly have aluminum first. That's one of my other main issues. Aluminum is one of the rarest metals in here, at least for now. Since I'm going to need aluminum for my next project, I decided to actually farm some with ore berries. That's when I noticed this, Haste 3. So yeah, that's a buff from sleeping, which is pretty insane. And I'm really wondering how the sleeping buffs work now, but I'm certainly not complaining. This is going to make clearing out this room so much easier. What am I doing here, you ask? Well, I'm planting crops. Well, yes, the actual crop sticks, which is kind of funny, but I need these sticks to actually plant the oreberry crops. These crop sticks can be made using 2 long sticks, which I don't remember how to craft them, just assume it's some sort of wood product at this point. But here's the interesting thing. I can only plant the oreberries in low light. Now, they can actually grow even if there is light, but they have to be planted with low light. You see the issue here? I literally cannot see what I'm doing. So I can't plant my plants, and I can't see what I'm doing. Thankfully, there is a couple of items I got at the very beginning of the run. Some night vision potions. I was planning to save these for an emergency, and well, I guess now kind of works. Another fairly interesting thing that these crops can grow, weed. Now, I am 99% sure these are just like garden weeds, not the actual drug plant, but still, I like the red text. That is pretty funny. And in case you haven't noticed yet, yes, the oreberry bushes do actually hurt you when you touch them. That's gonna make harvesting them a slight annoyance, but I kind of forgot about these things for a while. Oreberries do come in all sorts of forms, and conveniently I have some iron ones lying around, so this is a good source of iron too, which is nice. Since those oreberry bushes are going to take a very long time to grow, I decided to go exploring a bit more. This is when I managed to find an aluminum gravel patch. That is awesome. This is one of the big things I've been looking for, so, I can make aluminum bronze and actually start casting tool parts from my smeltery. The main issue is that aluminum is extremely rare, but that was a massive and of course awesome find. Another crazy thing I encountered during my adventure was this, which I feel like is a mini boss at this point, especially with all of his buffs, but I should have died here. The odd thing is I didn't. I can't exactly explain why. The only thing that I can imagine is one of my armor pierces. I believe my boots have a buff called Last Stand, and that's the only thing I can imagine that actually saved me here, because by all means I should be dead. Literally at half a heart, and I've been hit by several attacks several times. I'm certainly not complaining that I'm still alive. That was just a scary encounter. I think running would have been the smart play here, but still, it was a fun little fight. Next, I'm working on making some drying racks, which is slabs and a bunch of wooden screws. I need these so that I can actually process tanned leather. It's basically leather, a bunch of cotton, and string. Pretty simple. The main issue is that it actually takes like 10 real-life minutes to finish processing. So yeah, I kind of forgot about it in this episode, so I guess we'll be visiting it next time. I also saw impregnated leather. Huh? Now that I have more aluminum, I can finally start making aluminum brass. I put 12 ingots worth of aluminum in. Unfortunately, the smeltery does not double ores like it does in most versions, because, of course it doesn't. And I put 4 bars of copper in. I thought at first I had the ratios off, but I was accidentally perfect. So now I have plenty of aluminum bronze and normal bronze in there. I just need to start making some tool parts as casts. I'll make them out of stone. I guess I could also do wood, but I have just ridiculous amounts of cobblestone in storage. And at long last, I can start upgrading my tools even further. This is extremely exciting, especially when it comes to like my pickaxe and everything like that. Finally, a better pickaxe. The only unfortunate thing is that now if I want to upgrade my tools, I need to use bronze ingots instead of just like cheap iron or flint, which means I'm probably going to have to go find more tin and copper. I have an insane amount of copper and more veins. Tin is the one I'm actually worried about. I didn't actually upgrade the tool rod of my pickaxe. I definitely should have done the binding, but I got, I believe, a netherrack tool rod earlier on or something like that. And it actually has a pretty good reinforcement modifier from the stone bound buff. So yeah, that's given it extra durability. It was an awesome quest reward. There are a few more missions I want to complete before I finish up the video, and conveniently, they'll be wrapping up the Stone Age. Yes, this isn't even like the first part. I have no clue what's going to be in store for me, but I'm guessing it's going to be insanity. Conveniently, I already have pretty much everything I need to actually continue. The only issue is that I need to make some bricks. Now, I was indeed being very smart when I stole some of the bricks from that house earlier. The only problem is that it actually wants me to smelt my own bricks. So the mod pack kinda owned me there. On top of the bricks, I'm going to need a whole lot of iron plates and copper plates. Copper plates and, well, copper can be used to make copper pipes. With all of these, I can make a coal boiler. That's awesome. This is what's going to let me start the Steam Age. But as you can probably all guess, that's not going to be until next episode. Also earlier, I realized I was wrong. Steam 5 is tier 0.5. The Stone Age is tier 0. I remember now. Totally not adding this after looking at all the footage. Do you guys remember all the way earlier when I needed that sticky resin? Well, it's finally coming in handy. Yes, I may have gotten a little bit sidetracked. I need all of these materials, including the expensive iron rods, to make these water tank blocks. It's heavily recommended that any multi-block structure is put within a chunk so that it doesn't get unloaded and disconnected from another chunk or something like that. And I decided a pretty neat spot for it would be right next to the drying racks. I kind of like this entire hillside area. This is a very good spawn. I've seen some of the other biomes from my test world, and those look beautiful, but this looks really good in of itself. And this is pretty much just like the coke ovens. I build a 27 cubic meter block, but with no block in the middle, and there it is. It just passively collects water. I'm pretty sure it gains more water when it rains, but that's kind of perfect. I can just leave it running. Also, a skeleton spawned in my base for some bizarre reason. Unfortunately, it happened to be a fire skeleton, so he kind of started burning everything. So yeah, there goes some of my stairs. Thankfully, I can see what blocks mobs can spawn on. I made this base out of marble floors so that the enemies can't spawn on it, but apparently where mobs can spawn, they will. And there just happens to be one tiny block on the smeltery that mobs can spawn on. That was a bit annoying, but at least I know now. And I managed to get some hoppers as a quest reward. That's pretty neat, I have to admit. That helps me out a whole lot in completing another quest. Hoppers require a bunch of materials, including gears and iron plates. I have not made a gear yet, and I don't want to know at this point. I also forgot to mention these hollow glasses I got a bit earlier on when I completed the coal boiler. They're super cool because they, allow me to see the inventory of whatever I'm looking at. It's insanely convenient for this run. Definitely one of my favorite items so far. And finally, I decided to exchange some of my coins and a log for a ton of those crop sticks. This is convenient because they are a tiny bit expensive with how annoying wood is to get, so that's actually a great value, especially considering I have so many of those coins. The last thing I wanted to do is actually the intended use of these crop sticks. That is somehow plant breeding. I'm not 100% sure how it works. It is incredibly confusing, and I guess we'll both figure this out in the next episode. Since it doesn't really tell you how to do it, just how to lay out the farm and everything, I guess we'll see what crop breeds or mutations I can make. Again, I have no clue. The floor here is actually cobblestone. I used a chisel to make this super neat pattern. I was originally going to use normal stone or stone bricks, but this looks infinitely better. And, it's a great use of all that cobblestone I have. I don't know how much I have at this point, but it's gotta be thousands of blocks for sure. This mod pack took me 18 hours to get to this point. For some reason, it felt like a whole lot more than 18. I'm guessing that's mostly because a good portion of my time, probably around half, is actually just spent trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. What I'm going to do, and then of course gathering all the components I need for said project. But I'm certainly not complaining. I'm having plenty of fun playing this. Either way, I've been having an insane amount of fun with this run. For how daunting this mod pack looks, and definitely is, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Again, I have no clue how long this is going to take me to beat. It's likely going to be months. Because like I said at the beginning, I'm planning to do videos and other stuff in between this pack. Maybe even another Minecraft mod pack in between. Who knows? This is of course going to be a long-term series. I was originally going to say earlier in the video no spoilers or anything like that, but okay, maybe don't try to spoil too much, but I will take any tips and tricks you guys have, anything I've missed at this point, because my brain is a giant pile of goo at this point. I have no clue what's going on, but that's why I appreciate the mod pack being, quest-based and everything like that, so I actually have a general idea of what I'm doing. This entire mod pack literally has its own wiki. When it has its own dedicated wiki, that it's serious, just like Terraria's Calamity mod. While editing this video though, I have been extremely excited to get back into this pack because of how much I love playing it. There's just so much that I want to do, and I can't wait to get back to it. So thank you all for watching. I always appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed playing the pack. And a special thank you to all of my channel members. All of you guys are awesome. Again, thank you for watching, and this is going to be Enzo from LookIntoGaming, signing out.